Hello and welcome to Mike Drops the Mic. I'm Mike Lyman. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by one of the nicest and hardest working people I've ever met, Angela Boehm. Angela is a casting director in the Ohio area. She handles local casting, as well as she's the founder of First Team Actors Studio. She does coaching and she's an overall expert in the film industry. Angela, how are you doing today?
Good. That's quite an introduction.
Well, you have quite a resume, so that's probably why.
Appreciate that. I'm doing very good.
Of
Thank
course.
you, Mark.
It's so good to see you again. I know we were talking a little bit earlier, but Angela and I worked together she cast me in Cherry as an extra, which shows how possible it is for anybody to get involved in a movie. And she handles all that in the Cleveland area, Columbus, things like that. So, Angela, how did you first get involved in the film industry?
So sorry about that.
Oh, you're
Um,
good.
Actually, I was ran a theater for a long time, and I was an actress in theater and did a lot of that growing up. And then my choreographer came to me and said Spider-Man 3 was filming in town, and I was like, I had nothing to do with the movies, no idea about making movies. And she asked if I wanted to be an extra, and I was like, sure, I'll be an extra. I'm putting my phone on vibrate so here. Sorry about that, because I don't
Oh,
want
you're
that to
good.
happen
You're good. No
again.
worries.
So I said, sure, I'll be an extra. And we went and we were extras for Spider-Man, the one with Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire. And it was the coolest thing I ever did. And I got that like sick to my stomach feeling like I have to be part of this industry. And I was what they call a core extra. So for 2 weeks, every day, I went to set in the same clothes and, barely had time to wash them because we were on 14-hour days. You know how it is. And turn around and come back the next day. And so it was just that I have to do something with this. And then I started interning for 3 years with unpaid. For 3 years I worked, and I just looked at that like my college. You don't go I didn't go to school to be a casting director, so this was like my schooling to me. So I worked unpaid for 3 years for a local casting director and trained, and people started noticing me on set and saying, you need to go do this on your own. And then I did. I got my first call for my first job. And, I remember even my first studio film, I got Lionsgate. It was Last Witch Hunter in Pittsburgh. And I remember sitting down in the studio after she told me I was hired, and she walked out of the room, and I was like, what's going on, God? Like, was this my life? I'm going to work for Lionsgate, and that was many years ago, but still a good memory. So that's how I got started.
So when you were talking about being in Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire, can we see you in the film if I watch it
No,
carefully?
I'm
Are
probably
there
on
any
the
spots I can
cutting
see
room
you in it?
floor.
Uh,
No, we are the film we did. They dressed up like New York. They had all these I Love New York stands outside of Cleveland, downtown Cleveland. And honestly, it probably is on the cutting room floor. The scene went, because I remember going to see it. The scene went so fast. I don't even know if anything in Cleveland on that street is recognizable. Yeah, so definitely would not see me.
so you mentioned moving from being an intern and then getting for the Last Witch Hunter being, in charge of casting, and that's not as a assistant casting director. That's
No.
full on. So you found out for that, and then you've been a casting director for a lot of other memorable films, such as My Friend Dahmer,
Mhm.
Cherry, The Fate of the Furious, and Escape Plan, all kinds of fantastic movies that have been filmed around the area in Cleveland, Ohio. So, which has been some of your most memorable experiences and like of those movies?
Yeah, I have several for different reasons. Like Dahmer, I love doing, even though it was a very, a much smaller budget than a lot of the films that I've worked with, because I remember the story of Jeffrey Dahmer growing up, and I felt like that story, if you've seen it, was a lot about Jeffrey before the film ended, as he was about to make his first murder. And I felt like it told a lot of the story internally of mental health. And if anybody would have done anything to help him instead of all the people that let him down in his life, be it his parents, his teachers, all that, then maybe he wouldn't have gone in that direction. And I really just remember growing up with it and appreciating learning about it, and telling story. I love to tell stories, which is why we make movies. Fast 8 was great just because who doesn't want to watch cars get pushed off 6-story buildings and blow up, and stunt guys and, dummy police motorcycles blow. I mean, it was just, that was a really cool film to be part of. White Noise, which we recently worked on with Adam Driver. That was great because, I mean, it was a $120 million movie here for 10 months, and being part of those bigger studio films. Actually, that's the hat I'm wearing right now, is the White Noise hat.
There we go. Perfect.
But being part of those, excuse me, I'm sorry, Sonic, come here. Sit down. Sorry.
No,
being
you're fine.
part of those 10-month projects like that with, directors like Noah Baumbach, it allows you to learn so much about, because, working in Cleveland, sometimes stuff is smaller. So working on those bigger movies really teaches us a lot about our industry and how to do things correctly here in Cleveland. And I loved Cherry just because the Russo brothers were so kind, and Tom Holland was also very kind. But when you have great bosses from the top up, you want to do a good job, and it's fun to do your job. So, all of the films I've worked on have a different feel and a different story to tell, but those are probably some of my favorites or memories or thoughts.
Sure. And you talked about the mental health, raising the importance of the awareness for that for my friend Dahmer. Yeah. And the same can be said for Cherry. It's a story, it's based on the book by Nico Walker, and it's a story of a guy who goes overseas to fight in Iraq, and he comes back with PTSD to the point where he's robbing banks and things of that nature, and he gets arrested. And so how did your role as a casting director differ from previous projects as Cherry? Because I know Cherry originally, it happens in Cleveland. The actual story of Nico Walker happens in the city of Cleveland. And from my understanding, there was a problem with the finances and the filming budget, and almost didn't film in Cleveland.
I actually didn't know that.
I read about that previously in August before, because we started filming that in October. I believe that's when they had the camera rehearsals, and from my understanding, but I heard that I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard it was originally going to have to go out on the West Coast.
Yeah, that is true. It was supposed to film in LA, and it did come back here, but honestly, I was not aware, or at least don't remember anything about the financing or anything. But I do know that they were supposed to film in Los Angeles, and then last minute I think came to Cleveland for because it was cheaper to film here.
Yes, I heard something about a tax break being involved, and I don't understand the logistics of all that, obviously.
Yeah,
but that had to be so amazing to know that a story such as Nico Walker's, that is such a famous book, starring Tom Holland and Sierra Bravo, directed by the Russo brothers, was being filmed in Cleveland, which is where the Russo brothers are from.
Yeah.
So what was the feeling like when you found out that you were going to be the casting director for Cherry?
I mean, it was amazing. Who doesn't want to work with the Russo brothers, and you're working very closely with them when you're casting the day players. Every day player we cast had a scene with Tom Holland. So they had to be sharp. They had to be good. We pulled a lot from Chicago and Atlanta. And just having conversations and being part of, and even the LA casting directors who are now the head casting directors at Paramount, working closely with them and going over talent with them. It's anytime that I'm telling a story of importance, I especially like storytelling. Obviously it's fun to do, stories that aren't true, but I really like telling real powerful stories. Anytime you're working on something like that and you're working with amazing, intelligent, creative people, it's always just fantastic to be able to do that. And you grow. I always want to grow. I want to be the best I can be. I don't care about me next to anyone else. I just want to be the best I can be. And so working with Trish over at now the head of Paramount, and Deb Aquila, Trish Wood and Deb Aquila, was to me like I felt really good learning from them and working with them. And I remember my first call, I was so nervous. I was so nervous to take that first call. And then they were like just so kind and great, and ended up being just fantastic to work with. And honestly, I had some really cool moments on that. Like I got an email from one of the brothers telling me how great my work was. I mean, to me, that's like career affirmation. Like that's
absolutely. That's one of the best compliments you can receive.
I know, from the Russo brothers. That was so great. And then even remembering, when I first, anyone that I liked had to go through the LA casting. And at some point they said, okay, these can go right to the boys, which had meant I earned their trust. They could tell I had a good eye in it. And I was now able to bring them right to the boys without vetting them through the LA casting. So stuff like that was really cool. Working with someone as brilliant as Tom, and he's also so kind, was great. Just watching him bring this character to life. I was disappointed at some of the cuts because from the original script, it, showed a lot more of his character. And I think to really feel the opioid crisis with him, I wanted to know him more.
Sure.
Like I did when I first read the script. I wanted everybody to see that. But still, it was fantastic to work on.
Sure. And I know there was you're talking about scenes being cut and things like that. And I'm not sure everything that was filmed, but I know there were some differences between the book and the movie.
Yeah.
It happens with pretty much every movie that is adapted from a book. But overall, it's a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, absolutely check it out on Apple TV.
Yeah.
So in Cleveland, you just mentioned White Noise, which you're representing the hat for right now. You mentioned that it filmed for 10 months.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many opportunities for people to get involved in be an extra in a movie. And for me, that was something on my bucket list because it's something I'd always wanted to do. And I actually did it for the first time in Pittsburgh. And then I ended up doing it several other times because I loved it so much. And you help people achieve that opportunity to be in a movie. So what does it take for someone to be in a movie and how can they get involved?
Yeah. So we have a free database because you should never pay to be in this industry. There are things, if you want to be an actor, you have to pay for headshots, some travel, some training, but you should never pay to be in a movie or represented by an agent. And so we have a free database that you can join at angelaboehmcasting.com. And that just basically what it does is really register you for our email list. So whether we're doing a commercial or a film, you're going to get an email. We don't usually send out emails when we're casting cast, like the local casting. It's only background or if we have hard finds, just because right now there's approximately 17,000 people in that database. Wow. And I don't have time to watch all those videos.
Holy cow.
So yeah, so I count on the agents to vet them. But you can do that. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And then when we put out a post, like we're getting geared up, I believe tomorrow and waiting for the go to start a commercial casting, then we'll post that or we may just go to the agents for some of that stuff, with that particular commercial. Now that I think about it, there's only 6 roles. I can get that from the agent. People are vetted. We'll do that. But if when we work our next movie, that will go out to the database and then people can sign up and submit their photos. It's important that they follow the photo guidelines because what you have to think about is a lot of the times almost every time we have to show our pictures to the director. We have to color the scene and go, this is how we see the scene. Do you like it? Do you like these people? And so anything we present is like going to a CEO of a company. It's going to the Russo Brothers or Noah Baumbach, So I can't give them your Snapchat picture with your filter of the dog ear on it. And we get that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, following those photo guidelines and submitting to us is the way to go about it. And then we will book accordingly. And it's a great experience and oftentimes leads to careers in this industry, depending on how far you want to take it.
Absolutely. And it's so easy to do something as simple as turn the notifications on Facebook for Angela Boehm Casting on Facebook. That's what I did. And there's plenty of opportunities that come up whenever there's a movie or project that they're shooting in the area.
Yeah.
So I want to backtrack real quick. I talked earlier at the very beginning with that introduction saying about how you're one of the hardest working people I've met. And I can just see that from how you handle yourself and how busy you are. And being a casting director is not a typical 9-to-5 job at all. You're working 12, 14-hour days, things like that. So I was wondering if you could take me, what it would be like a day in the life of Angela Boehm when you were in the middle of filming a project. What does your typical day look like?
Sure. So, it's going to be different whether it's extras casting, commercial casting, or principal casting. So we'll do extras casting, and extras casting is, I think, one of the hardest jobs on set. And I don't think people realize that because it's often, we could be we come in at our start time, which is, we'll just say 8:30. We come in at 8:30 and we start going through submissions. We put out a post. We're looking for a homeless man. And so we start going through our homeless man submissions. And then we have to do a lookbook for the director. Here's our 10 homeless men that are available. And then the director picks one, and then we have to book them. And now with COVID, set them up for COVID testing. And if it's a period piece, set them up for fittings and get their size cards and measurements. And now, and I mean, that's just one, like this could be for a classroom of students. This could be for a football game and we have to do all the fans, or a fashion show. And with the fashion show, we need audience members, we need reporters, we need photo, why am I drawing a blank on the name? Photographers. I don't know why I was drawing a blank there. Photographers. So we have to paint this scene according to what they want, know what the scene entails. So is there anything extras need to know? Like, is someone going to be naked? Is someone going to be whatever? Is it going to be an outdoor scene and you have to dress for them? So communicate all that. It's a lot of coordinating, a lot of detail in this industry. If you make one mess up, you just can't, if it's, when we've made a few mistakes, it has been very, very bad. Like, for example, one time on Fast 8, I didn't see on the daily prep schedule. Like, no one tells you, hey, you have a meeting. It's your job to read the daily prep schedule every day. On the daily prep schedule, I skimmed it and just didn't realize that fittings were changed from 1 p.m. to 8 a.m. So all of costumes shows up and I have no one going to fittings. That was a big mistake. That was, costumers are union. They were affected. That was a very, very bad mistake. So like mistakes like that, or one of my assistants once gave a wrong call time by an hour. Well, that's a big deal because you guys have to be ready when the director calls for you. So now you're not even going to be there and they want you to be processed by then. So, I know mistakes happen, but it's one of those things where we usually try and have 3 sets of eyes on everything, because when mistakes happen, they're very consequential. And so that's kind of, and then like we used to joke during White Noise and go, okay, we're going to get off at 7 o'clock if Netflix doesn't drop a bomb. And Netflix would constantly, I mean, not Netflix, it's production, it's all production, but they would constantly, we need redheaded twins by tomorrow. Can you make this happen? Or so-and-so, tested positive, you have to replace them by, whatever. Or the costumers need 2 roller skaters now. They have to be size 8, and so they just throw things at you that you have to figure out with not a lot of time. So that's hard, and that happened in Cherry, actually. I'll never forget Ian, who was wonderful AD, calling me and saying, Angela, he's British, Angela, those 100 guys we actually need 200. And this was Thursday and they were needed for Saturday. So we needed 100 more people in 2 days. And they had to be willing to get down to their underwear, because it was like the scene in
It was
Cherry.
the duck walk scene.
Yep. And shave their heads. Yeah. So like, no problem. Let me just find 100 young, and they had to be in shape because they were military. So let me find 100 guys like that, so it's a lot of, I'll tell you this much. When you do that, when you do casting, you can think on your toes in life. Like nothing phases you. Nothing that happens in my life phases me, because extras casting really takes you for a run and preps you for everything in life. Day player casting is a lot easier. I truly do enjoy both. Just sometimes I don't enjoy like I might be off for the day taking my daughter for her birthday dinner, and then I get something thrown at me. I have to leave dinner and work. That's hard to always do. But other than that, I do love extras casting. Principal casting is a lot easier. Everybody wants to do it, and you just get to know the talent and the agents and have relationships with the agents and know their talent and call them in and watch their videos and show the director your favorites. And then the director picks from there. And there's some paperwork involved at that point, doing deal memos. And then commercial casting is always very fun too. It's always energetic, overacting, all of that stuff. So yeah, I hope that gives you a rundown. I don't know if that
was a great overview of everything that you're involved with in terms of casting.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, really, really the Cliff's Notes.
Sure. And
For
another thing that you're involved with that I mentioned is something that started recently within the past couple of years, First Team Actor Studio.
Yes.
So could you talk to me a little bit about what that is, how it was founded, and what your mission is for that?
Yeah. So a couple of things. You said that earlier that I coach. I don't coach really. I'm not a teacher. I'll go in and do master classes, like kind of the business side, why not to run to LA and spend all kinds of money and be a dime a dozen, how not to get scammed, kind of stuff like that.
Okay.
But we have a lineup of teachers that are way like that. Like my job is casting, and I like to keep that separate. The
Sure.
reason I started First Team is Cherry's a prime example. 26 or 28 cast members that we needed, all interacting with Tom, and only about 4 of them came from Cleveland. And that's what I want to see stop happening. I would like people to understand how to do a 5 and under, how to deliver, can I get you some coffee, and not be over the top in their heads. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Or those high stakes scenes where Tom Holland's robbing a banker. I mean, I read that script and knew right away that wasn't coming from Cleveland, and I don't want that to be the case. So what Lauren, my business owner, and I have done is just hire working actors, because if they're not a working actor, you can't teach someone to do something that you aren't understanding how to do. So we've hired 6 working actors, which we're really thankful and blessed to have 6 working actors in Cleveland that teach anything from improv, high stakes scenes, how to analyze your script. I mean, the whole, we have a ton of different class descriptions. And then once a month, we bring in a guest speaker from different regions, different markets that understand things like we don't, like New York, Chicago, Atlanta, and we fly them in and we put them up and we hire them for a weekend to teach you guys skills that we aren't even thinking about here. I mean, like camera angles that we're not even thinking about, and how we project our emotions during those times. And I mean, just so many things. So I'm really pleased to see where the students at First Team have grown in the past 2 years. I want to get them even stronger. I want to get them to be able to match that Chicago talent. But it's a process. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Sure.
So I'm really pleased with what's going on there. I will guest teach occasionally. I am doing a class right now called the Casting POV, point of view. And that's really been a good class to show people, you're doing great. This is where you're at, but this is where you need to be, and kind of give my perspective of what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing on the film side of things. So First Team's awesome. The teachers are fabulous. We took them out for their Christmas party this year, and they talked about students the whole time. You can't beat that. They're just, it's good people, and I need just good people around me. So
yeah, it sounds like you've surrounded yourself with quite the team there at First Team Actors.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, one of the last things I like to do at the end of these podcast interviews is what I call 7 quick questions. Sure. It's just 7 questions that are short answer about maybe stuff we talked about, little things about you, just to get to know you better. Sound okay?
Yeah.
All right. So I know it's tough because you're in the film industry, but could you give me a couple of your all-time favorite movies?
Oh gosh, this is the worst question for me because I'm a chick flick girl. I love Just Go With It with Jennifer Aniston, Adam Driver. I love Blended. I love Moulin Rouge with Nicole Kidman. Like, I love chick flicks. And if I'm going to escape, sometimes I think it's because I just want mindless TV. Yes, I know they're going to get together at the end of the show. Sometimes I just need that because I have so much going on. But those aren't like deep, good movies. You know what I mean? They're just getaway movies. But that's what I love to watch. I also, of course, like Green Mile, Shawshank Redemption, those deeper movies. I'm trying to think if I feel like there's a movie on the tip of my tongue that I'm forgetting. I just recently watched, and this is not a movie, but a mini series that I thought was fantastic, was Dope Sick with Michael Keaton.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
It was fantastic, kind of going along with the Cherry theme. And the acting all around was stellar. So I guess that's my answer. Probably a bad answer because
No, it was a good answer. You gave a lot of good examples. Shawshank Redemption, that was filmed in Ohio at the.
It was filmed in Mansfield, yeah.
Yeah, and that's also in Cherry where they filmed some of the prison scenes, correct?
Mm-hmm. I believe so. And we also filmed Sylvester Stallone Escape Planner.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you mentioned Adam Driver, Tom Holland. So I was going to ask you some of your favorite actors
Yeah,
and actresses that you've
that's
worked.
actually, yeah, easy one. McConaughey's wonderful, kind, professional, fantastic. Um, I loved Milo Ventimiglia, who's the dad in This Is Us. I worked with him on Madtown, and he was just an all around really good guy. Always said hi to the extras when they were coming, like was equal with everybody. I really liked him. And I think the last favorite I have is Dahmer. Oh my gosh,
Oh,
Ashton. No, not
the guy who portrays
Ross Lynch. Ross Lynch.
Ross Lynch.
Yeah, he was super cool too. I really enjoyed working with him as well. So those are probably my three favorites.
Now, could you give me three? It doesn't matter, actors, actresses, or even directors, just people in the film industry who you haven't worked with yet, who you'd love the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Michael Keaton's all-time favorite. Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks gave a speech once and said, "Don't make the PA come knocking at your door." He just has such integrity and professionalism, and he's a brilliant actor. Nicole Kidman, Jennifer Aniston, just for fun. Um, Melanie Griffith, I think, is a classic actress. And then as far as like behind the scenes, I don't know what director I'd like to work with next. Whoever's bringing a film to Cleveland.
Yeah, really, absolutely. And the crazy thing about Cherry too, when the Russo brothers brought it, I mean, that was right after Avengers Endgame. That was their
Yeah.
first movie back, like the biggest
Yeah.
movie in film history. It's insane.
And
So
I'd love to work
that is,
with them.
yeah, absolutely. So when you're not working, what are some of your favorite hobbies to do?
I love working out. That's what I do every day almost. I love going to Disney. I love traveling, period. I like comedy shows. I love Texas Hold'em. I love poker. But I am very good about only playing like every 3 months because I don't ever want it to be a problem. Like I like going to casino, sitting down with a group of players and just having a good night. I'm very big on self-educating and self-advancement. So whether it's health or spiritual, or do you like how I said spiritual right after Texas Hold'em?
Well, it's important to better yourself. Maybe you made a mistake at Texas Hold'em. You got a spiritual,
right? Those are all. I love to just live life. I love doing anything I haven't done before. I love to live. I originally wanted to be a marine biologist, so I love the ocean and cruising, and love cruising and love ocean life.
Sure. It's funny. I couldn't help but think when you're talking about going to casinos and stuff. I actually work part-time at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Fort Lauderdale, like the Hollywood area. So you gotta come by sometime and say hi.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
My next question I actually was going to ask you, you mentioned how you love to travel. And I figured that because you mentioned previously before about going to Disney and Orlando. Where are some of the favorite places that you've traveled?
So obviously Disney, we have annual passes and we go a lot to Disney. I love Virgin Gorda, Tortola. I don't know if you've been to Baths. It's gorgeous there. The Virgin Islands, and Asheville, North Carolina was also gorgeous. Went to the Biltmore Estate there. We got to see some neat things in Jamaica. We went kind of not in the touristy where they're actually like riding their bikes with big sacks of rice and potatoes on their backs and selling in the market. And that was really cool. Watched a guy bathe his dog in the water. I mean, it was really cool to see their life there, their hospitals, their culture. That was neat. I think though Virgin Gorda and Disney are going to be my top two.
Okay. And my last question is, I know you talked about when you're submitting for extras about how important it is not to have your Snapchat filter with a puppy dog face and things like that, because these things happen. What general advice would you give to someone who is an aspiring actor? Maybe they want to start in being an extra, or maybe they just, because I know that sometimes I've heard the argument that people don't want to get categorized as an extra.
Yeah.
So they avoid it if they're an aspiring actor. Is that something they should consider, being an extra before, trying to get into a more principal acting role? Or
Yeah,
what advice would you give them?
I don't agree with the whole don't be an extra if you want to be an actor. I don't agree with that. I do think you should put in a certain, like once you put in a certain amount of time being an extra, you need to advance yourself if that's what you want to do and get out of that. But I think, Clint Eastwood started as an extra and he didn't stay there, and I think Dustin Hoffman says if sharpening pencils gets you in the room with two actors, sharpen the pencils. Like, you do what you have to do. This industry is about drive and networking. So, it's up to you how far you want to go, but getting on set is going to do so many things for you. First of all, you're going to get kind of idea of what it's like to be on set. Do you even like it? Because even though extras are holding for hours, actors are also holding for hours, just in a more comfortable setting. So
Sure.
that, and you're networking on set, you can learn something from everybody. And a lot of the people that are on set, a lot of these extras, they want it and they study it and they train and they know who to talk to and they know the casting directors around and they know what databases to be entered in. And so, to me, going on set and being an extra often is a very good thing to do. Also, the amount of upgrades I watch happen, I mean, that's not a promise and it doesn't happen to everyone, but I think on White Noise, we upgraded 25, 30 extras
Wow.
to cast, so it's actually, if you include the dancers, it was more like 50 because we upgraded 25 dancers.
Oh.
And by dancers, we brought people in that auditioned as movers and then ended up bringing them to a rehearsal and they became dancers and they got upgraded. So, there was 50 upgrades on that set. Producer doesn't like hearing them, but
Yeah,
financially, but yeah, there was. So, don't ever be too good to do anything, I think that's really important.
yeah, and I think just like you mentioned about Clint Eastwood starting as an extra, I
Yeah.
think you're another perfect example of that, starting as an extra and then going on to be the casting director that you are today through your internship and working hard. So as you said,
Another thing to add to that is on Spider-Man 3, the guy that served breakfast in the morning, so craft services, the guy that was handing out the donuts, and I was an extra. I remember meeting him as I was getting my breakfast. Years later, became the third director to hire me. So he went from craft services to being a director,
wow,
hired me on that Milo Ventimiglia movie, and was the one to hire me. And then, so, he went from craft services to director. I went from extra to casting director. So that was pretty cool too.
now you had to have talked to him about this, correct? You
Oh
could
yeah, he's one of my teachers now.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
one of my
That's
teachers that
wonderful.
first team. Yeah, yeah.
That's
I mean, we definitely joke about it, and you, like I said, you can go as far as you want. You get one life, do it right. You can go as far as you want with this industry.
Sure. Well, thank you again, Angela, for talking with me so much. Again, you need to you can follow Angela Boehm Casting on Facebook and on Instagram. You can go on her website, the database, which has over 18,000 people on it. And you can follow on Instagram, Angela Boehm Casting and First Team Actors Studio. Thank you so much, Angela. I appreciate talking with you.
Thanks, Michael. Have a good night.